Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer. Welcome back to Pro Cycling Manager 2020. It's Champions. It's episode number 7. It's the final couple days of December. We're moving into the new year, but we're going to go ahead and get our final look at the year that has been and see what kind of progress we've made within the database. So first off, rider-wise, only 4 riders gained popularity, though it looks like a 5th one did have a small amount at the start of the season, but nothing now. Okay, that's something. Our max is right about 15. The value F current, that's the current breakdown of all their attributes. What is their average? So this shows up without the decimal points in the game itself. So a 66.199999, that's a 66 in game. Now we've seen value of the team also have the same thing, where that decimal point is taken away. If the riders are high enough decimal wise, it'll kind of carry through into that, and that seems to be taken from your top 3 riders only. Our current evaluation, breaking those down, there is a 0 in there. The 0 is there because I have just added in our rider for next season. They're going to start at 55s in all. Potential is 6 for that rider. You'll see who that is when we get started on the new season here in a little bit. But the average of the existing 14 riders at the end of the first season is 65.9. 65.9. Now, starting at a 50, max potential is 85. Totally open ceiling. That means from 50 to 85, we have covered 45.4% of the ground we need to get there, from min to max. So that 65.9 is nearly halfway there. That's actually pretty dang good. We've picked up 16 points. We've got only less than 20 to go, 19 to go. Looking again at the one we saw earlier in the season, Capital, that's the overall accumulation of experience, similar to what you see in the Pro Cyclist mode. And it's those century marks that are the level ups. Though, over X amount of levels, that stretches out and gets further and further and takes more to get. But it's always on some century mark where the level ups happen. As we noted, level ups happened early on at 100, 200, 300, 4, 5. And then it went to 7, 9, 11, 13. After that, we're going to go 300 per level. So at this point, you can see all of our riders are somewhere between that 900 mark. Our lowest rider is a 993, pushing towards the 1300 mark, where our highest rider is, 1186, which means everybody is somewhere between level 7 and level 8. So level 7 and level 8. Now, that average is 7.57 throughout. So we're right about 7.5 levels in. That is 37.9% of the way to the maximum, which is 20 levels. So starting on level 0, you get 20 level ups. We've done 7.5 of those. So the good news is that we right now show the potential that we might be able to actually hit our high marks. At least somewhat. I don't know how quite there we'll get or how close we'll get, but it's looking like we've got a chance of getting pretty high up there, 80 plus anyway. Reason being, right now, again, the progress on how far we've gotten is 45% of the way there, but the levels are 38% of the way there. So right now we're 7% the other way, but of course we know later on you gain less per level when you get close to your max. When we're going to see that decline, I don't know. So far, we haven't seen it in these early levels. So far, we're actually making really good and still making that rapid progress that in a typical rider who has a lower ceiling starts higher, right? Their gap is smaller. And so you might see the 2 to 3 levels once or twice or maybe 3 times, like Wykankis in career mode has done that a few times. Pavel Rodriguez did that a few times in the early levels. We're doing that continuously that entire year. 7 levels, and we're still getting that 2 or 3 per. So right now, it's showing no sign of slowing down because of how far away we still are from that max. Now, the other thing is right now, we're at, say, 1100 as an average in that capital gain. The final level 20, happens at 6600. We're at 1100. That's exactly 1/6 of the way. So based on that, we're 16.7% of the way to the maximum capital to hit the highest level. And of course, at that rate, 1/6, it means we're exactly 6 seasons in. So 5 more seasons to go to hit that max at the current gain. Now let's look at the gains for a moment. I did not average these out. However, you can see across the board, 18.2 to 21.9 is our range. Now, that's not the exact rate of gain. There is that variable that goes in, that changes it, and it's hard to say what all goes into that variable. I can confirm, we did learn that your trainer and the level of that trainer has a definite impact. And of course, right next to gain is the training variable that somehow plays into it. We don't know exactly how it feeds into it. For a moment, I thought that maybe like that 131, I thought that it would be like a percentage. So they train at 131% of their F gain. So meaning there'd be a 31% boost to that 19.9. I don't quite think that it works that way. I think it's broken down into some sort of smaller scale than that. I don't think it's a 31% boost, but it's a definite boost. It is a definite boost. Just how it works in, I don't know. But I do know that the higher the number, the better the boost. Meaning our 178 down there, that 21.4, they're training pretty well. I think part of that has to do with the relationship, as in that 5-star relationship. And actually, I think that is possibly what that number has to do with more than anything. That's that star rating. But might not be. I don't know. Let me know what you think that one might be in the comments. We'll add that to part of what we're discussing here within this one. But all in all, we're making some serious progress. And the good discovery is that you can start really low. If you have really good potential, you actually still can get a really good rider. They're going to hit a lot of levels early. And age is definitely a factor in that. If you want a young rider with high potential, they're going to get you a lot of levels early, and they're going to be a lot better than they were when they started than taking somebody in their mid-20s who's already well along their way, and those levels are far away. This season, if anything, it's a real indication. I mean, we as a team, 14 riders, gained a tenth away anyway, 16 points to their average in just one season. Just one season. 5 of those 7 levels came the really easy way. 2 are into that normal range of 200 per level. We've got a couple more to go for half the guys. We've got 1 more to go for the other half before it starts getting a little bit harder. We're going to hit that 300 range for the next, let's see, what is that, 3 levels? And then it's going to go to 400 range for a couple levels. And then it's going to go to 500 and then eventually to 600, 700 at the end. So those levels get further and further and further. Now, what I'm curious to see and why I did this at the end of December and not at the beginning of January is I'm really curious to see what happens to that gain value. Because from what I know, from what I understand, reading the forums, those values are going to change January 1st. And they're going to be reflective of the rider potential and that current capital. That capital's higher. Potential's still really good, but that capital's much higher than it was a year ago. I mean, roughly 1,100 per rider. So they've made some definite progress. As far as I understand, we're going to get slowed in 2 ways. We're going to get slowed because the levels get further and further apart from one another, but we're also going to be slowed because our rate of gain is going to start to be nerfed season by season. Closer you get to that max value, the lower that gain value is. Now, my expectation is it's not going to drop by much. It's still going to be quite high because we're still a long ways away from our max. But we're not at 0. We're at 1100. That's what, 16.7% from that 6600. So if that is an indication, I would expect to see a small drop. 1, maybe 2 points in the gain. We'll check back in with that one, but not in this episode. We'll check back in a couple episodes into this season, a couple months in, get another look at it and see where the gain values are and if they in fact dropped. They did rise though, because I know we had some riders that were at 17s at the start of the season, and now they're all 18 plus after we changed trainers. So I don't know if the trainer actually directly impacted that gain value, but they might have. Let's move forward into the new year. Into the first of the new year, we're going to get a quick update on where the riders are at as we do our preparation phase. But of course, after talking about the database, I know most of you want to get more quickly into the racing than anything. So I won't linger on this for long, but I want to see where the riders are developing and start to see if that pattern of specialty is emerging a little bit more. Last time we had checked, only a couple of riders were starting to look like their specialty would suggest. So where we're at now, well, Hulk, first one to top 70 and is a climber in mountain rating. So that is showing signs of at least one rider heading into their specialty. In terms of punchiness, top 2 riders, both punchers. So again, we are starting to see that pattern emerge. In terms of time trial, well, we've got a stage racer near the top. We've got another stage racer who's doing well, but the time trialists themselves, not so good. Prologue, yes, for one of them. So at least one sign of us heading in the right direction. Top cobble rating is a Barradour. It doesn't necessarily suggest, but our classics riders are at least somewhere in the middle of the pack. Our sprinters, well, Groot is coming along, and Groot's only a 66 overall, so one sprinter at least is emerging, but our other 2 are at the bottom. Of course, Cyclops, the new rider, 55s across the board. Okay, that's to be expected, that they are actually way behind everybody because they haven't leveled up at all yet. They have that 0 F value. Now, acceleration, we do have a sprinter here, Groot. Has the best acceleration of anyone. So it's still not across the board. It's not uniform. It's not every rider having developed into their specialty yet. But more and more and more, we are seeing that pattern emerge slowly but surely. So we are seeing a few extra points going into the areas where they belong. Barradour rating, tied on top. Nebula, one of the 2 Barradours, is up there. Ant-Man also just 1 point behind. So yes, the patterns are emerging slowly but surely, that we are getting, the specialties beginning just early, but beginning to show up. Now, in terms of competitiveness, well, only a single rider has anything over a 70. So we're still a ways off from being there. But as for where we're at right now, compared to a season ago, we've definitely got a better chance as the season continues to progress, and we still level up. It's not going to be at the rate we leveled up last season, but we should still level up relatively quickly to the point where we're just a few levels away from that competitiveness beginning to emerge, especially continental level races. Speaking of, what are we facing when it comes to sponsorship this season and the demands? I know that we're going to have a lot more races in place, and you can see we're also going to have a bit more of an importance factor. A much, much busier calendar. Now we're looking at this Grand Prix. Okay, everything fits into the page here. So, very different season ahead of us. Quite a few top 10s. a few top fives, only a couple stage win requirements. That's good for us because obviously the stage win ones are pretty much a non-starter. Tour de Normandy, not going to happen, but those are minor. So we've got a top 10 gravel and tar, at least on paper. That looks like it's just a sprint stage. That's more achievable. Those first three, we may get one or two of those. I very much like our chances of a better season. I mean, Cholet here, very much we could get a top 10. I still don't expect good results, but it should be easier to get those top 10s on a pretty regular basis, and most of these are far more achievable than what we faced last season. So I have a feeling that we should be cruising towards an okay year in terms of dealing with the sponsor. That should be much better off. Of course, right now this is all blank. That's going to change drastically. The registered riders, they're not going to be happy. They are satisfied with the number of riders from the US, but we still have no popularity. Black Panther has just district, and again, as we just looked in the database a little bit ago, that's like a 15, a 14. So it's a very low popularity, but it's a little something. Again, Black Panther should see that rise a little bit more because guaranteed top 2 in their national championship, or maybe it's a top 3 if there's a new gen rider in there. But either way, Uganda wise, we're going to continue to get a little boost from Black Panther getting a result regardless of what position it is, because there's only, at least last time we checked, 2 riders from Uganda, and we get to participate in that national championship regardless. All right, so we're into our opening. It's actually our second race of the year, but our opening sponsor objective of the year. It's gravel and tar in New Zealand. Top 10 is the objective for this one. And one expectation for this year, besides the fact that I think the sponsor objectives are going to be far more approachable than they were a season ago, is, well, 2 things. One, we are going to be having a much busier calendar. We're going to need 2 teams at a time quite frequently throughout this season. But I do expect our race day condition to be much better than it was last season. Our races were so few and far between that we couldn't maintain a busy enough schedule. And without that on the calendar, we were looking at nothing. I mean, we had empty spaces for long periods of time, and the result was low motivation, low morale. They didn't get enough races. They were sad. That's not going to be a problem this season at all. In fact, we're going to have a bigger problem with trying to keep them from being overloaded. So we're looking at, let's see, Deadpool has a 69 sprint today. That's definitely good. Nebula doesn't have anything like that, so let's go ahead and use her to protect. Hulk feeling a little down, 66 plus the resistance under 60. That's not going to help. Black Widow might be okay. Gamora is definitely one of our quicker riders. Groot is our sprinter, but only a 67 acceleration. They're looking okay, though, with a little better resistance. We're still not looking at much in terms of quality, but the ability to pull together top 10s should happen a lot more often now, as they are just that little bit better than they were. And we added those couple months of off-season, and there was a little bit more in terms of leveling up during that period. Of course, what we just looked at was about 2 weeks ago within the database itself, and you can see where we were kind of at that 66 across the board for the most part. Just in 2 weeks, a couple more riders leveled up during that time. So we have a group that's more capable of surviving to the end of a stage and having a bit of an energy left on a stage like this one, as opposed to where half of them were already dropped and or struggling. Never mind needing to do that twice. We're close enough now to the end that once we'll cover it. Figured we were going to need 20 or 30 kilometers later to have another go at it, but we're fine. You can see Hulk is a little tired from that movement through the peloton. You can see everyone is a little bit tired in this one and blinking red from this little climb. We don't want to get dropped too far. Peloton actually did lose some riders on that little climb. See, Hulk is struggling. Ant-Man, Nebula, the other riders on Protect are struggling a little bit as we get down to the final 35K. Down to 9 riders in the break. It's under a minute. They are starting to fall apart, so their time is very limited. A little bit blinking red on an 82. Definite hard push here in the peloton to catch those front riders. And this is good for our chances. More fatigue around. Better our hopes are. 12K, just about time to line this up and have a go. Actually, it's perfect time to line this up and have a go because we're just about to make contact with those front riders. And there's always that brief moment of chaos. Alright, those are the riders doing protection. We'll put them at the front. Alright, I'm going to try to establish a front position pretty quickly because there's that moment of chaos. That's a great opportunity for us to come forward. Inside 10K. Can we do... top 10s are normally pretty easy, but of course under the circumstances, the lack of quality we have. And this is the first time, I think, last season I never really saw us properly get out front and control the pack. And Hulk did it on a 95. It wasn't, a 99. It was just streamlined, regular effort.
There are just 5 kilometers left.
See, we're still holding that decent front position. We're going to have to start going a little bit harder here. 97, actually 98. We're inside 3.5K, 99. Others are coming on, but we're holding up position, and now we can start to attack. 2.7. This is about top 10. This is not about getting the win. So this is just trying to stay as close to the front as we can. We're inside that last kilometer, and now the gap is opening. 13 riders at the front have escaped a little bit, which means I think we're well in position to get a top 10. Could we do more than that? Could we do more than that?
Well, nobody can dispute that win. It was very well deserved.
We did more than that. We got the flippin' victory to open the season. Take that, sponsor. How do you like me now? Well, we'll find out tomorrow how they like us after getting that victory. In fact, we added a third place with group, the sprinter, who ended up the lead out rider today. That acceleration gave that little boost, and Deadpool didn't have much left, but we pushed that thing early enough that it forced others to go. We split up a lot of the field. There was only a few riders there, so actually my tactic ended up working out brilliantly for a change, and we ended up with a win, beating Alan Banaszak, who is a pretty decent sprinter, to the line, and clearly he was fading there at the end. Wow. Okay, a win. We got a win. I don't know if I'm going to replicate that at all this season, but what a way to start. Before we evaluate what just happened with that race, winner of the Rider of the Year award last season was Primoz Roglic. Xandro Maurice, one of my favorite unknowns out there. A lot of people watching deep into my series anyway, those 100 plus episodes, they certainly know who he is, but worldwide doesn't have much of a reputation. Simon Yates was third. Wolverine did pick up an injury in December, Christmas Eve of all days. Patellar tendon tear, so he's going to be out until March. So keep that in mind. We will not see Wolverine for a while. As for what the sponsor thinks, well, at the moment, they absolutely love results maxed out. The registered riders is dropping. It will drop further. It always takes 2 to 3 races for that to happen, but the squad evaluation isn't too bad. Of course, we get that super evaluation. It's not going down as noteworthy in any way because it was an objective. We just get that super evaluation for that one objective. But you can see this is going to drop us down a little further. This is going to definitely drop us down until we get some known riders. But as for the winner, let's see, there you go, victories, Deadpool. Third in the Continental rankings for now. It's not going to stick around, but at the moment, unknown. But I wouldn't be surprised if here in a week, as we turn into a new week and that gets recalculated, that they might actually have a little bit of reputation after that one. Even if it's just district, they should get something for picking up that win. Also, Gamora has just leveled up, is now a 70 overall, so there's something worth checking out. 71 mountain, 70 hills, 69 sprint, 70 resistance. So we had just had a single rider eclipse anything with a 70, and all of a sudden there are 3 attributes at that marker for Gamora. She's generally been the first one to level up pretty much across the board. Hulk was always right there behind her. It looked like Hulk has kind of supplanted her as the first one on the chain of leveling up. And those were the first ones that we changed to the legendary trainer. Speaking of trainers, we've actually seen a change now in what we experience in that, and that is 2 of our existing riders for this season have flipped to modern style. That's a step back, and that's a step back I did not expect to see just on season 2. Generally, your training styles, we talked a little bit about this one previously, your training style is loosely connected to your amount of progression still available to you. And as you get closer to maxing out, that backs off. It drops off, and it has a little bit to do with potential. So an 8 potential rider isn't going to drop off as early as a 4 or 5 potential rider. So my guess is Black Panther and Thor are among 2 of our lower ones, which also shows in that they're only 65s where others are 66, 7, 8 already. Those 2 have lagged behind just a little bit and now flipped to modern. So I'm guessing that's 2 of the ones that were just 6 on the potential, where everybody else, or most of the others, were either 7s or 8s. Cyclops, new rider, comes in potential 6, but starting off at a 55, where the others had all started at 50. So it'll be curious to see how that goes in time. All right, well, what a start to the season. We had a beautiful ending to the season where we celebrated like crazy to squeeze into the top 10. And then now we open the season for sponsor objective with a win. Now, this is not going to stay that high. We did not suddenly get amazing, so results will go back to being rather difficult, I would imagine. But getting top 10s, that's not going to be the only one. We're definitely going to get some of those top 10s. Our sponsor confidence will definitely be much higher this season than the... oh gosh, what did we end at? 16, 17% after getting that success in the final one. I think we'll comfortably be, neutral and maybe have a success, but I would probably venture to say we'll be comfortably in the neutral territory this season. Anyway, that's going to do it for this episode. What a start to the season. Now we don't have to worry about the sponsor so much. We could just focus on the development and what's going on. Be sure to hit that like button. See you next time. Have a good one. Be safe out there. And bye for now.